Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Write for Your Life. I'm Caleb.
And I'm Timothy.
It's been a little while since since we recorded the last episode.
Yep.
The first two were actually released, and things have been going pretty well so far.
It's been fun to see, how it comes together live and then actually listen to them because we kind of recorded the first two and then didn't really know what they would sound like. So it's been neat.
Yeah, and apologies for any audio hiccups or inconveniences. We're still figuring a whole bunch of things out, especially on my end. The good news is this week I'm not under a blanket anymore. So that's improvement.
He's upgraded. He's now kicking his little feet in the air.
I am. I'm kicking my feet in the air in a room that actually has like curtains and a mattress and other things to absorb the sound so it doesn't seem like I'm bouncing off the walls anymore. I think I'm pretty excited for the writing this week.
Me too. This is one of my favorites, I think, of everything you've written. So, yeah, I'm pumped.
It should be pretty exciting.
You want to banter more, or do you just want to get straight into it?
You know what? Let's just go ahead and dive right in.
All right.
It's bad for you. You know those things are bad for you, right? Bill said as he pointed to the smoke in my hand. I know, I've tried, but every time I try, the stress. Bill cut me off. Yeah, you want a light? I said as I took a drag of my cigarette. Of course I do. He opened a fresh carton and slid a cigarette out of the pack and into his mouth. After he nestled it between his lips, he bent down and I flickered the lighter on to let him begin his smoke. You should quit, Bill gravelled as he let out a puff. I know. So should you. I know. We both sat down on the curb and listened to a few cars go by. This was pretty routine for the two of us. Every couple of hours for the past few years, we've been doing this every time we were at this god-forsaken place. They're bad for your health, he spoke out of the silence. I'm too young to care about that kind of stuff, and they're just as bad for you, maybe worse, I sighed. I'm too old for it to make a difference, he joked. He was old. I never knew how old. He was light on those kinds of details. He never seemed to talk about that much. Come to think of it, I had never heard him talk about anything other than working here. Work and smoking were about the only things that came to his mind. You should get out more, he said, breaking my train of thought. I'll get there one day. I'm too broke and too busy to get out right now. Why don't you get out more? Only having a couple bucks to your name sucks. Bad knees, he said, rubbing his leg. He had walked with a limp for a while. I had always wondered where he got it from. My cigarette had finally hit the filter. I snuffed it out against the concrete and grinded it under my shoe. Just a couple of minutes left before heading back inside. You ever asked that girl out? Bill questioned. I stood up and gave my back a big stretch. Nope, time was never right. Every time I thought about it, something seemed to get in the way. She's seeing someone else now. Were you ever married? No. Never felt like the perfect one. Just kept waiting and waiting. Even if the right one did come by, it'd feel too late. I decided to leave him for a couple of minutes of peace, like he does to me when I come back out here. See you in there soon, I said as I opened the door to the harsh fluorescent light. I didn't see it, but I knew he waved at me as the door shut, bringing an end to our usual exchange. What did you think?
I thought it was really good. I mean, I said this was one of my favorite things that you've written. I think so. This style of short story where you don't get any background, you don't get, any specific world building, there's not a huge plot or anything like that. It's just two people, one of them is named. They're just sitting and talking, but you get so much about their personalities, their lives, their desires, their goals in life, their lack of goals in life, kind of in this case. It's one of my favorite things to write and to read because it's just so interesting. And I think this one is done really well. The other thing that I noticed listening to it was the characters are very strong in this story. Hearing you read it, it was a slightly different interpretation than what I had in my head of both of the characters, but it really seemed to fit. And I think you reading it actually brought it to life even more than it did just me reading it in my head. I think probably more than the other writings that we've done so far, but it was very good.
So, what was the biggest difference between writing and reading? You said it was different than how you had imagined it. How did you imagine it versus how did I read it?
I think the biggest thing was how you expressed the different characters. And specifically, I guess you could call him the main character, the person we're seeing this through the eyes of. You made him somehow feel much younger than he was in my head, but also more tired at the same time.
I did want him to seem young and tired. I feel like that's a common thing, particularly for sort of in my head, the character may only be like, I don't know, like 20,
Yeah.
maybe even younger. But when you start working at a job, like you can start working at like 16 or even
Mm-hmm.
15 or something like that. If you've been working there for 4 or 5 years, that sort of fatigue can already set in, especially when you're so young, having worked at a place for so long. It feels like you've been there forever.
Yeah. Did you have an idea of where they're working? Did you have anything beyond what's in the story, or was it just this?
As far as where they're working, for me, the thing that I imagine is outside of a fast food place or like a Waffle House.
Ah, okay, yeah.
That's sort of the image that I have. I feel like everyone's seen this at some point when you're driving around to find a place to park at, one of those kinds of places. You'll see a couple people out back smoking.
Yep, yep,
That's it feels like a very common image to convey the idea. Someone who has been stuck for a very long time and someone who is just now becoming stuck or feeling like they're becoming stuck. It felt like a good way to convey that message.
yeah. It's funny. I always in my head when I was reading it. This is probably just my background speaking, but I pictured it as a machine shop. But that can be kind of similar in a lot of ways. Not that a machine shop is bad work or anything like that, but if you don't want to be there, you can certainly feel stuck.
Yeah, I think some like entry level job, right? Whether that be a dishwasher at a machine shop or working at I worked at a lighting store for a while. I
Mm-hmm.
mixed concrete for a while. Just any of those base entry level jobs. It's like a lot of things in life. If you're not careful, you'll be stuck there,
Yeah.
or you'll feel like you're stuck there, which I think is the bigger feeling. These characters have things that they could be doing and that they kind of want to do, but they're not doing them.
Yeah. Almost like it's too much work at this point to break out of the rut and do the things.
Yeah, and that's something that's always true in life, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
change is more difficult than staying the same, but at some point it is more painful to stay the same than it is to change.
Yeah. But then at that point you're so stuck that it's still tough even though it hurts more not to.
The theme about playing on time, especially at the beginning, smoking's bad for you. Everyone knows this by this point. And if you don't know this, please, smoking is bad for you. But it's the two opposite perspectives of
Yeah.
someone believes that they are so old that quitting just won't matter at this point, and then the other person is so young that you feel young and invincible, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if I do this now. I'm young, and anything I do now won't last very long.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the danger of most of these all of these things that they're feeling, right? There's always going to be a reason or an excuse to not do the thing that you feel like you should be doing.
Yeah.
It's too cold outside. It's not the right time. It's too late. It's too early. It's put in whatever excuse there is here. And oftentimes in life, I find that there may be a wrong time. I think it's pretty easy to see when something is the wrong time, but very rarely is there a right time.
Yeah.
And the right time is the time that you decide to do it, not
Yeah.
necessarily a perfect set of circumstances, because those will never occur.
That's kind of tangential to something my dad used to say a lot. I guess he still does some, but he would always say it's never too late to do the right thing, which is kind of the same idea of there's obviously bad times to do things, but the perfect moment never passes. Like, that opportunity is never over fully. It may have changed, but the moment you decide to do something, that's the time to do it, basically. That sounded a lot more eloquent in my head.
I'll edit it. It'll sound more eloquent. When I agree. I have often seen too many people in my own personal life decided that the time is up. Decided that the right time to do something was yesterday or last week or last month or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and have simply given up on trying again or to try for the first time. And that's the true tragedy. The true tragedy is thinking that it's too late when it really isn't. Anything else on this one?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm pretty sure we covered all of my notes and got really in detail, got a little bit sad, so I think that about covers it.
You know, what is life without a little bit of sadness?
That's true. Makes the happy things seem happier.
Let's head on into the next segment.
What we're working on. Well, this past week, we haven't recorded in a while because this past week I was on vacation in the Outer Banks. One of my goals, I think I talked about it last episode, was to really sit down and get writing on my book. And I did that, and there were kind of two big things that happened. So I'll talk about one of them now, and then one of them in the next recording, because we're hopefully recording that right after this. Spoiler. So the first thing that happened was I had this third character in the book that I had to develop, because I realized she was going to have some far more major interactions with the main character than I realized, and so I couldn't have her just be like a one-note, one-dimensional, oh, this person's just here for a scene, I know their shtick, and we're good. She needed to have a lot of depth, because they were going to have a prolonged conversation. So I was thinking about how I was going to, develop her, what her whole deal was. I was just kind of like writing down, hey, this is what she's about on a Word document. And I figured out that through the process of developing her character, I realized that the ending of the book that I had planned literally from the very beginning just didn't work. And so it was one of those moments of, oh, I've got to go back to the drawing board, because this just doesn't feel right anymore. It doesn't match with the characters. It doesn't match with their motivations. It doesn't feel like the ending of the story is making the point that I want it to make. So I had to not scrap everything, but strip away everything from the ending, because there's one thing I needed, but everything else I took away, and I tried to rebuild it based on the characters. And it was like I was completely stumped. But then one thing, I don't remember exactly what it was, and even if I did, I probably couldn't say it because spoilers for the book, but there was one thing that just clicked into place, and then everything was there. I didn't even have to write it. It was just there immediately. And I thought that was really cool, and I was really thankful that I was dedicating time to building characters before writing, because if I hadn't done that, then like the entire last half of the book would have been completely different, and I would have had to rewrite it, and I wouldn't have been happy with it, and it would have, I just wasted a ton of time and effort on something I wasn't happy with. That was really cool. I know not everybody develops characters beforehand. Sometimes you just kind of know it in your head, but when I write things down, it really helps me process through them and see them in a different light. And so doing that, and then finally getting the ending that I wanted out of the book, I'm really, really excited about it. Really excited to write it now. And I I have a direction that feels good. And I feel like that was really exciting.
That's awesome. I've had the exact same experience where you're writing and then you're like, oh no, the ending that I have planned, my entire reason for writing this is now different than why I'm actually going to continue writing this. I feel like most people, I don't know, this cannot be just a me and you thing. I'm sure lots of people with this at some point.
Yeah.
You're going through the creative process. And I do feel like it just clicks in where you're like, I see everything now.
Yeah. When you've got the right story, it's just there. You don't have to write it. It's there.
Yeah, the hard part is like getting it out of your head and onto the page because it's already fully formed. You know everything about it. Yeah, I think that I have a character in my book that sort of inspired the same thing. I'm like, is this in this person's character to do this thing? No. So the person I've created is not the person that I need for this ending. So now I have to decide, do I want to change the character to fit the ending? Do I want to add a new character that will perform this ending? Or do I just change the ending? That's a fun thing to have happen, but also I've had to do a lot of rewriting because of things like that.
Yeah, I was really thankful I got to that point before I had really started getting into the meat and potatoes of the book, because it was the exact same scenario. It was like, okay, either I change the ending or I just find a new main character. Those were the only two options at this point.
That totally makes sense. I feel that very deeply.
Well, what have you been working on?
I have rewritten the opening chapter.
Ooh.
I asked one of our friends, Ben, if you're listening. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben. And Adele, I guess.
Yeah, and Adele, if Adele is listening. I asked him to read it to see whether it makes more sense with the entirety of the book. He's read it, but he hasn't read it since I had a bunch of major rewrites to it. I may send it to you as well to let you read it, since you've read the book closer to its more fully formed piece, to see if it makes a little more sense. This is very interesting that you said this. I've had one line that has opened the book for the entirety that I've been writing it, which is, a person will live 1,000 lives. That means they also die 1,000 deaths. And I have scrapped that line.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't evoke the correct feeling that I'm conveying with the book.
That's a bold choice.
It is, but it's similar to you, right? Where it's like, oh boy, this thing that I've had that's been like in the cornerstone foundation, I'm now removing. But I've changed it to something else now that fits a lot better. It's something that he would say, but he doesn't say in the book.
Okay.
Again, add a little more lore, add a little more depth.
I think it's really cool how, I think especially books, but also music and other creative things that I've done, it feels like there's something external to me. Because originally, I'm assuming that opening line for your book worked really well. And the ending for my story worked really well originally, at least in my head. And yet it changes and grows so much almost on its own that it outgrows those things that we prepared for it in the beginning.
It really does. I remember one of the other books that I'm working on right now, I was like, I don't plan on anyone to die in this book. And I started writing. And I kept going. I was really in the flow of writing a particular chapter. I sort of just wrote whatever I thought would happen next, whatever would come naturally.
Yeah.
And when I did, a character wound up dying. And I was like, either two things, both of which can be true. Either I have a problem, or sometimes it's better to just let the story form itself, right?
Yeah.
So, again, both things can be true.
Yeah, that sounds like a rather you situation to get into.
It does. It does. Let's move into the last segment, shall we?
Let's do it. Choo choo.
What?
I was just trying something new. I don't know. It felt right. It's like, hey, we did segue jokes last week. Let's do train jokes this week. I don't know. It's 6 a.m. You can't.
Look, man, I'll abort us next time, I guess.
Good, good.
We're still figuring things out, folks. Forgive us. We're don't.
Yeah.
It's fine. So, what has been inspiring you lately?
So, in addition to reading on the vacation, I also read so much. Let me see if I can count it out. Yeah, I read the second half of a Brandon Sanderson book, and then another full Brandon Sanderson book, and then separate to that, in a single day, I read the entirety of another book. It was awesome. I was just locked in. But the other book that I read was called The Big Over Easy. It's by this author named, I think, Jasper Fords, but he has two F's at the beginning of his last name, so I call him Fords. He has a number of books. They're all kind of pseudo mystery books. This one's just a full on, like it's a mystery novel. Kind of the hook for it is that it's someplace in England, and this main character, one of the main characters, this detective, he works for what's called the Nursery Crimes Division, because in this town, the nursery rhymes and stuff, they're all real, and so the things happen, and because most of them are quite horrifying, someone has to investigate them. So he runs this division. It's a rundown division. Nobody really cares about it. They work in a basement. And in addition, the other part of the other main like shtick of the book is that the detectives, the most important thing for them is public opinion and getting into publications, because in the history of this made-up world, basically, Sherlock Holmes started this club that turned into this huge detectiving guild. And the detectiving guild, the whole thing is, oh, you have to have these, flashy crime-solving instances, and you have to have them ready for publication and stuff. And so, basically, all the detectives are worried about is, how can I make solving this crime interesting to the readers? And those two things combined make such a good story. It's absolutely incredible. The characters are well written, and I was really excited to read it because it is very adjacent in idea, in feel, to the story I'm writing now, because I'm also writing kind of a mystery story, and it's set in a similar era. It's a little bit earlier, because like this one was like probably early 2000s, and the book I'm writing is more set in like the 1930s, 1920s type era. But the vibes and the comedic background and all of that stuff, it's all very similar. I was really excited to read it, and it's an absolutely incredible book. I would highly recommend it. I read it in a day, and it feels like a blur, and it was awesome.
That sounds very interesting. I mean, I'm intrigued by the premise because I'm like, do they make the crime harder to solve because it would be more interesting for the readers if the crime was more difficult? Like they could just get the answer, but that's no fun.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What about you?
Interestingly enough, because I've had family over recently, I've seen Wake Up Dead Man twice in the past 2 weeks. What's very funny is that there's a similar theme between that and what you're talking about, which is Benoit Blanc, the detective. He sort of lives for this like gotcha moment where he unravels the plan that was the mystery that was set out before him in this very dramatic way, and then I guess I'm not going to spoil anything, but different things happen because the movie's less than 6 months old, so I want to give it a little bit more time to breathe. But this sort of thing of like living for this particular thrill, living for this very exciting moment, and where does that fit in, and is that good or is that bad? Just other things about Wake Up Dead Man in general. I really love movies, and the way that it plays with lighting, I love it a lot. And there's a line that sort of goes like, there it takes place in a church, and Benoit Blanc is not religious, and he kind of makes this rant about how much he doesn't like the story that is being told to him.
Mm-hmm.
When he walks into a church, right? How it evokes the feeling, but he hates the story that's being told because of the rather brutal history of the church. And the main character, Father Judd, on the other side, says, "Yeah, like this is storytelling. Everything that you see here is storytelling." And he goes into the details. And he was like, and maybe it's storytelling because it's the only way that we can convey something that we know to be profoundly true
Hmm.
is through stories.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that sort of very deeply as someone who writes a lot. I started writing because the only way I could convey things was through stories. Like I had these what I believe to be like deeply complex emotions that are not just happiness or sadness or boredom or desire. I had to write and express these things in a very I had to tell stories in order to be able to convey the emotion I was trying to convey. In other words, I had to tell stories to explain something that was profoundly true.
I'm trying to think of something to respond to that.
You don't have to have a response. Sometimes it just is.
And it is just a great movie.
It is just a great movie. I highly recommend it. Like last week, there will be links in the description below.
We'll link the full pirated downloading of the movie in case you want to watch it.
No, as much as I do love to be a pirate, I will not pirate on my podcast.
We don't condone that.
We do not condone pirating VO123 movies.
Putlocker.ru. We don't know about these websites.
We do not condone pirating through Stream East to get every sports thing you could ever want. We do not condone this. Link in the description below. Not a sponsor of the podcast because we have no sponsors.
Although, I mean, if they want to, we'll take anything.
I don't know if legally we can.
No, yeah, I think that would be suspect. We'd have to get a DraftKings sponsorship or something like that instead.
A DraftKings sponsorship. Gosh. You will not be hearing a DraftKings sponsorship on this podcast now or ever. I'm willing to burn that bridge with DraftKings.
Me too. Or any of the... there's so many of them now. I mean...
Yeah.
It's like, and with YouTube giving more ads, I'll see like 2 or 3 ads a day for the different betting books. It's insane.
So if I'm going to gamble, I'm going to gamble with my life. Anything else? Speaking of plugging stuff, anything else you want to plug?
I don't know if we said our email last week, ctwriteforyourlife@gmail.com. Also, if you know either of us personally, you can just text us. I have had multiple people text me, both constructive and positive feedback, so that's been very helpful. Caleb's Substack. I don't remember the link, but it'll be in the description too. I don't think we have anything else right now.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the big things. I've had people, to those who have reached out to me personally as well, thank y'all very much. It goes a long way in keeping us motivated, keeping us inspired. We are open for comment and feedback. Like we've incorporated a couple of different things that we've received feedback on.
And we'll continue to do so.
We will continue to do so.
Unless it's really stupid.
Unless it's really stupid. And we can also just say no.
We are adults, shockingly.
We are adults. Despite our best efforts, we have made it this far.
It's the title of my autobiography.
That's a good autobiography title, actually. Again, like, comment, share. Please do leave a review on various different platforms, whether you're listening to this on, YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leaving reviews and things like that help the podcast be discovered. That's why I ask, is to continue to push this out to more people. And with that, keep writing, keep listening, keep being inspired.